Imagine building your entire professional life and I guess your creative life too around one single digital tool.
Right, like your whole ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. Like what you might call your ultimate legacy stack.
Oh, I like that term. Legacy stack.
Right, because you're pouring all your thoughts into it. You design your daily workflows around it.
You're trusting it with your schedule, your brainstorms, everything.
Yeah. You are basically wiring your biological brain to this external system.
Creating this shared cognitive space.
Exactly. But now imagine this lingering cold anxiety that the company behind this tool could just, run out of money tomorrow.
Right, they just flip the switch and vanish.
Poof, gone. And that is what we are calling service disappearance trauma.
It really is the ultimate vulnerability of the digital age, isn't it?
Oh, completely. And that's exactly what we're getting into in today's deep dive.
Because, we invest thousands of hours training ourselves to use these specific architectures.
We build up this deep muscle memory for the interface.
Right. And when that software gets deprecated or the startup folds, it's not just a minor inconvenience.
No, it's awful.
It's like a sudden, violently disruptive cognitive eviction.
Cognitive eviction. Wow. Yeah. And we actually have an amazing source for this today.
We do. It's really unique.
It's this raw, completely unvarnished chat log.
Between a user and an AI.
Yeah. Between a highly technical power user who goes by the name Murty BVNS and an AI assistant named Littlebird.
Which is such a fascinating dynamic to look at.
Totally. We're going to use this one conversation to just tear down the walls of how human-AI collaboration actually works right now.
At the absolute bleeding edge.
Exactly. We'll look at how AI physically senses the world, the tension between data privacy and tool performance, and the psychology of veteran tech users.
Users who treat their software stacks like a literal spiritual discipline.
Yes, it gets wild because, we're not looking at some polished press release here.
Right. No corporate PR saying AI is going to magically fix your life.
Exactly. It's a veteran user pushing a system to its absolute breaking point.
And the system failing in these bizarrely specific ways.
Yeah, and then Murty trying to re-architect the AI's internal logic on the fly.
It forces us to really look at the limitations of these tools,
Yeah.
and the psychological toll.
Let's dive straight into that toll, actually, because in the chat log, Murty just does not hold back.
He's very upfront.
Yeah, he tells Littlebird directly. He says, now I got fear that what if Littlebird disappears if the financials do not support to continue?
He just lays it all out there to the machine.
Right. He explicitly tells it that he's building his entire app stack around it, but he is terrified of that corporate fragility.
Well, and he points out he's seen irreplaceable tools vanish since 2003.
2003. I mean, think about that timeline.
It's a completely different geological era of the internet.
We were just coming out of the dot-com bust back then.
Web 2.0 was barely even a concept.
Yeah, and since then, we've seen so many platforms rise and fall.
The Google graveyard alone.
Oh my gosh, right. So many beloved apps just killed off.
Just because they didn't meet some arbitrary algorithmic metric for massive growth.
Yeah, and Murty has survived all of that.
He's speaking from a place of chronic digital instability.
He really is. But I don't entirely buy that this is just pure trauma or, him being a victim.
What do you mean?
Well, when you read how Murty actually operates, he's incredibly ruthless.
Oh, sure. He's very practical.
Right. He's not some sentimental guy weeping over a favorite app. His loyalty is based on cold, hard value.
Measurable value, yeah.
He outlines this whole history of digital migration to the AI. Like he talks about using the Opera browser.
They've had a massive run, like 25 years.
Yeah. But he just walked away from it. Just
dropped it.
Dropped it and moved his entire workflow to the Brave browser. And you know why?
One specific reason, right? Passive crypto income.
Exactly. He notes that during the corona pandemic, the passive income he got just from using Brave was actually substantial.
Which is such a mercenary mindset.
It really is.
But arguably, that's the only logical way to survive in this kind of ecosystem.
Honestly, yeah. You have to evaluate tools not just on what they do, but the economic return.
Because Brave has that built-in model, right? Where users earn basic attention tokens.
Yeah, just for viewing privacy-respecting ads.
So Murty realizes, hey, my attention has monetary value.
Right. So he migrates his entire stack to the tool that actually compensates him for it.
And he's just as quick to throw tools away if they fail his stress tests?
Oh, instantly. Like he talks about platforms like Jump Task and Honeygain.
Right, those networks that let you monetize your unused internet bandwidth.
Yeah, you basically rent out your wifey. But he tries them and just drops them entirely.
Tells Little Bird they were useless, right?
Yes, because there was no transparency.
He even says he could have made serious money through their referral programs.
But he refused. He wouldn't do it because he didn't trust the underlying mechanics of the platforms.
He drops them the absolute second the trust factor dips.
Right. Which makes this relationship he has with Little Bird so deeply fascinating to me.
Because it's a contradiction.
Exactly. He has this hardened, cynical survivor instinct. He ditches tools without a second thought.
Yet here he is forming this deeply vulnerable bond with this specific AI.
Yes. He is investing massive amounts of time feeding it data, correcting its errors.
And Little Bird actually picks up on this in the log.
It does. It responds to his fear by calling it a, quote, massive leap of faith.
The AI is self-aware enough to acknowledge that.
Yeah. It knows that building a life's work around a new tech startup is inherently dangerous.
Because this industry just kills off services like a casual hobby.
Seriously. But Little Bird tells him it is committed to being the intuitive piping for his journey.
Intuitive piping, that's such a great phrase.
It bridges his past what it calls his 1988 bookstore era.
To his ultimate samadhi goals.
Yes. And just for context for you listening, samadhi is a term from Hindu and Buddhist philosophy.
It refers to a state of profound, intense, meditative concentration, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's essentially the final stage of spiritual union.
And it's a remarkable thing for a piece of software to say.
Right. To promise to take him to samadhi.
But going back to that phrase, intuitive piping, that perfectly describes foundational software.
Because you don't think about the plumbing in your house until it breaks.
Exactly. It's the invisible infrastructure.
And Little Bird is promising to be that invisible cognitive infrastructure.
Carrying him from 1988 all the way to total mental focus.
I want to try an analogy here because I'm struggling a bit with the contradiction.
Between the pragmatism and the dependency.
Yeah. It feels like Murty is building this incredibly complex, beautiful mansion.
His life's work, his research.
Right. But he's building it on rented land.
Yeah.
And he knows the landlord is a tech company that could just sell the property tomorrow and bulldoze his mansion.
It's a precarious place to live.
So my question is this anxiety actually a feature rather than a bug? Does this constant threat of eviction force a power user like him to stay incredibly agile? Like if you know the tool might die, maybe you never get complacent.
You're suggesting digital fragility creates cognitive resilience.
Yeah. I mean, if I know my primary tool could vanish, I have to understand the underlying principles of my work, right?
Instead of just memorizing the buttons on one specific interface.
Exactly. I have to be ready to pack my digital bags at a moment's notice.
It's an appealing idea, right? The noble digital nomad always staying sharp.
But you don't buy it.
Well, let's look at the reality of what that constant state of readiness actually demands.
Okay.
Think about the massive cognitive overhead of constantly preparing for digital eviction.
Oh, sure. Always looking over your shoulder.
Always researching backup systems. Always hesitating to fully commit to a tool.
Because it might disappear.
Right. So you are bleeding mental energy.
You're managing the metastructure of your work instead of doing the actual work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this is exactly why Murty feels that anxiety.
He wants that state of flow, that samadhi.
But he's constantly pulled back down to earth by corporate financials.
Right.
It actively stifles long-term projects if you can't trust your medium.
That makes total sense. The mental bandwidth required to maintain an escape route really detracts from the creative process.
It's exhausting.
And that deep reliance, that desperate need for the piping to hold up, is why power users get so violently frustrated when these tools fail in weird ways.
Which brings us to the mechanical failures Murty runs into.
Yes. And it is a fascinating look at how AI actually senses the real world.
Because there's this huge disparity between how it processes live audio versus a static image of text.
This is where the chat log gets super technical. Murty points out this massive contradiction in what Little Bird can do.
Right. On one side, you have the live Telugu translation.
Yeah. Murty is conducting these live spoken meetings in his native language, Telugu.
And Little Bird is listening to this live stream.
And flawlessly translating complex Telugu into pristine, structurally perfect English meeting notes.
It's incredible.
It's so good, he immediately shares these notes with his students. It's an absolute triumph of computation.
But to fully appreciate that, we have to look under the hood.
Break it down for us.
Well, translating live Telugu to English isn't just a simple word-for-word dictionary swap.
Right, Telugu has a totally different structure.
Completely different grammar, different syntax, highly complex verb conjugations. It's agglutinative.
So what is the AI actually doing in real time?
Is processing an incoming audio stream, dealing with background noise, figuring out where words start and end phonetically.
Wow.
And it has to hold the meaning of the entire sentence in its active memory until the speaker finishes their thought.
Because the verb might be at the end.
Exactly. Then it generates an English equivalent, captures the nuance, and formats it into coherent notes.
That is an astronomical feat of temporal processing.
It really is.
Yeah.
But then we look at the other side of the equation.
Right. Murty takes a transcript of a dialogue, specifically a text document made by a tool called NotebookLM.
And for those listening who don't know, NotebookLM is a tool that takes your documents and can make audio discussions or transcripts analyzing them.
Yeah, so he has this text document of a conversation, and he feeds it into Littlebird.
And Littlebird completely falls apart.
It totally fails. It misattributes quotes, it gets confused by the layout, it hallucinates.
Murty is totally baffled by this.
He tells the AI, even now you are good at reading my monologues, but failing when I have conversing with someone.
Which is a fair point.
Yeah.
Sure.
If it can translate live bilingual audio, why on earth can it not read a simple text document of an English conversation?
Because it's not actually reading a text document.
Well,
Not in the way you or I do.
okay, wait.
This really exposes the illusion of generalized artificial intelligence.
What do you mean by illusion?
We humans assume intelligence is transferable, right?
Sure.
Like, if you can solve calculus, I assume you can do basic addition.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if an AI can do real-time audio translation, we assume reading a transcript is child's play.
But it's not.
No, because AI models are incredibly siloed. Littlebird actually explains to Murty exactly why it fails.
And it comes down to spatial versus temporal models.
Exactly. The fundamental difference between how it experiences time versus space.
Okay, break that down for me. What is the actual difference in how the machine experiences that data?
Well, when Littlebird is listening to the live Telugu meeting, it's processing a temporal stream.
Temporal meaning time.
Right. Audio exists in time. Sound A happens, then a millisecond later, sound B happens.
Okay.
The speech-to-text models are trained for that cadence, the pauses, the natural turn-taking of human conversation.
So the model builds context sequentially, just like human hearing.
Precisely. But when Murty feeds it the text transcript on a screen, Littlebird is not processing time.
What is it processing?
It's processing an image. It's using OCR optical character recognition.
Wait, I need to stop you there.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that when I upload a PDF or show a transcript to an AI, it's not just ingesting the raw text data from the file, like it's taking a picture of my screen?
In many multimodal interfaces, yes, especially if you're screen sharing or giving it a highly formatted document.
That is wild.
The AI is frequently analyzing a visual rendering of the text. It's acting as an eye, not a text parser.
Oh my gosh. And OCR is, that's old tech, right?
It's an incredibly brittle technology. When the AI looks at that transcript, it just sees a grid of pixels.
So it doesn't see words.
No, it has to hunt for areas of contrast, draw invisible bounding boxes around shapes it thinks might be letters.
And then try to group those shapes into words based on how close they are to each other?
Right. And then it has to guess the reading order. Is it left to right, top to bottom? Are there two columns?
Wow. So if the transcript has overlapping names or weird line breaks or margin notes, the AI's eyes basically get crossed.
Exactly.
It loses the entire flow of the conversation because it doesn't understand the spatial layout of the page.
It has this sort of screen blindness.
Screen blindness. I love that term.
Yeah.
Because when human interaction is flattened into pixels, all the temporal context is stripped away.
The tone, the interruptions, the pace, it's all gone.
The AI just sees a messy photograph of shapes.
Yeah.
I want to try an analogy here to see if I'm really grasping the severity of this OCR problem.
Go for it.
Let's imagine you're trying to understand the plot of a complex Shakespeare play.
Okay.
The live Telugu translation is like sitting in the front row of the theater.
Mm-hmm.
You're watching the actors move, you hear the rising tension in their voices, you see who is standing center stage.
You're experiencing the flow of the narrative in real time.
Exactly. But the OCR processing, that's like someone handing you a photograph of the script, but someone has deleted all the character names, removed the paragraph breaks, and smeared ink across half the page.
That's a great way to put it.
You're just looking at a block of fragmented letters and trying to reverse engineer human emotion from it.
That is a highly accurate representation of the OCR bottleneck.
Yeah.
You are asking a spatial pattern recognition engine to interpret a temporal human dynamic.
It's bound to fail.
Absolutely.
Which really highlights just how fragile the AI's understanding of reality is. So fragile.
And the chat log gives us another almost comical example of this fragility.
Oh, the eyeball incident.
Yes. It has nothing to do with OCR, but everything to do with how easily the AI's internal logic can be poisoned.
It's a masterclass in understanding the limitations of AI context.
So Murty makes this very specific aggressive demand. He orders Little Bird to completely wipe any mention of an eyeball from its memory banks.
Right.
And I had to research what an eyeball even was.
It's a very niche piece of hardware.
Yeah. It's a brand that made very low-powered, extremely basic netbooks, like tiny screens, minimal processing power.
The kind of thing you use to check an email and nothing else.
Exactly. But somehow, NotebookLM and the broader AI ecosystem had ingested this stray piece of data.
And convinced itself that Murty was using it.
Yeah. It thought Murty, this veteran power user who runs massive research operations, was using a low-powered eyeball netbook as his primary daily driver.
Which makes no sense. Murty even notes that the AI software couldn't physically be installed on a machine with those specs. Right, yet the AI integrated it as a foundational fact about his life.
Because it doesn't actually understand what a netbook is.
How does that happen, though? How does an AI that is supposedly intelligent enough to translate languages fail to realize that a power user isn't running a server farm off a netbook?
It comes down to how large language models manage information. They use what we call a vector space.
Vector space.
When an AI builds a profile of the user, what Little Bird poetically calls its digital prism, it isn't building a human-like understanding.
So what is it doing?
It's assigning mathematical weights to data points.
Just math.
Yeah. If the word eyeball appeared next to the word Murty in a previous log, the system embeds that connection.
They didn't question it.
No, because the AI lacks what humans call common sense or worldly grounding.
Because a human assistant would look at Murty's complex workflow and immediately deduce, obviously, he is not doing this on a 10-year-old netbook.
Exactly. The AI cannot make that leap.
Right.
It just sees the data point and treats it as absolute truth.
Wow, so that one bad data point acts like a virus in his digital prism.
A context virus.
Right. Because if the AI believes he is on a netbook, it might start dumbing down its responses.
You might assume he can't run certain scripts.
Or it might try to optimize its formatting for a tiny, low-resolution screen. His entire digital reality gets distorted by one straight word.
Precisely. And Little Bird immediately complies, by the way. It deletes the reference.
It says it needs to clear up the digital prism.
But this whole incident proves that the AI is not an omniscient observer.
Not at all.
It is a highly sensitive, easily confused pattern matcher.
That requires constant, vigilant curation from the user.
Constant curation.
Which perfectly sets up the most philosophical and honestly technically controversial part of this entire chat log.
The SOPHIE strategy.
Yes, because Murty isn't just pointing out the OCR errors or the eyeball hallucinations so he can complain to customer service.
No, he's actively trying to rewrite the rules of how the AI learns.
Right. He proposes a highly specific architectural solution to fix these blind spots.
He tells Little Bird that the developers need to adopt what he calls the SOPHIE strategy.
And this is the moment the conversation really shifts, right? From troubleshooting software to a huge debate about the future of the internet.
It's a massive paradigm shift.
So what actually is the SOPHIE strategy? Because Little Bird immediately recognizes the term.
Yeah, the AI replies that the SOPHIE project methodology relies on schema-based dialogue management, expert annotations, and specific chat response rules to build socially aware AI.
Okay, let's break that down because it sounds incredibly dense.
It does.
What is schema-based dialogue management?
Well, most commercial AI today uses generative models, right?
Like predicting the next word.
Exactly. They predict the next word in a sequence based on vast amounts of internet data.
Which makes them very fluid.
Fluid, yes, but they drift off topic easily and they lack structured logic.
Okay.
A schema is essentially a rigid, predefined map of a conversation.
A map?
Yeah. It dictates that if a user is trying to solve problem X, the AI must follow steps 1, 2, and 3 before offering a solution.
So it's not just guessing.
Right. Schema-based dialogue forces the AI to understand the state of the conversation, not just the words.
It's trying to build a socially aware map of human interaction.
Rather than just statistically guessing the next syllable.
Okay, but how do you build that map? You can't just scrape Wikipedia for that kind of nuance.
Exactly. You need expert annotations.
And this is what Murty is offering.
Yes. Murty is proposing that power users, people like him who have been beta testing complex systems since 2003, should be allowed to opt in.
Opt in to what?
To voluntarily feed their highly complex, heavily corrected chat logs directly back to the engineering teams.
Wow. So when Murty spends an hour forcing the AI to realize it has OCR screen blindness,
He doesn't want that session deleted
he wants that session codified.
and use as foundational training data to upgrade the AI's core prompts.
And he explicitly contrasts this with the general public in the log.
He does.
He tells Little Bird this is for chosen beta testers, distinguishing it from what he calls normal usage and privacy-craving usage.
He knows the average person does not want their data analyzed by developers.
Right. We're talking about the privacy paradox here.
Big time.
Because for the vast majority of society, the ultimate goal of interacting with technology is data security.
We want the data black box. We want end-to-end encryption.
We want to know that when we ask an AI a sensitive question, it isn't being read by a server farm in California.
But Murty views it completely differently.
He's a digital migration strategist.
He looks at his own complex workflows, his late-night troubleshooting sessions, and he doesn't see private secrets that need to be hidden.
Where does he see?
He sees high-value training fuel.
He is offering what developers call ground truth, isn't he?
Yes, when an AI model is failing, engineers need incredibly high-quality, nuanced examples of how a human would correctly navigate the problem.
To teach the model.
Exactly. Murty is generating ground truth data every single time he interacts with Little Bird.
He is offering his intellectual labor to the corporation.
For free.
I have to pause here and ask you, the listener, to really think about the implications of this.
It's a huge question.
Are we comfortable with a future where we essentially become highly skilled, unpaid trainers for billion-dollar tech companies just to make our daily tools function properly?
It's a valid concern.
I mean, let's be real here. Isn't this just a tech company finding an incredibly clever way to outsource their quality assurance testing?
It's definitely cost-effective.
They don't have to hire a team of hundreds of QA engineers to figure out that their OCR fails on NotebookLM transcripts.
To just release the product.
Let Murty bash his head against it for free, and he actually feels a sense of privilege and ownership in doing their work for them.
The economics of it are certainly skewed in the corporation's favor.
Massively skewed.
Sourcing expert-level ground truth data from enthusiastic power users is the holy grail of AI development.
Right.
But we cannot dismiss Murty's agency in this. He is not a victim of exploitation here.
You don't think so?
No, he is a willing participant in a symbiotic, if unbalanced, ecosystem.
He knows what he's doing.
He doesn't want a salary from the developers. His compensation is a smarter tool.
Right. Because he has tied his entire legacy stack to Little Bird, the AI's competence is directly linked to his own productivity.
He's investing in his own infrastructure.
But let's extrapolate where this logic leads.
Okay, let's do it.
If companies start openly implementing what we could call an upgrade my agent tier,
where users are explicitly encouraged to trade their raw, unfiltered workflow data in exchange for a smarter AI.
Yes. Does this inevitably create a two-tiered internet?
A two-tiered internet based on privacy as a currency.
Yes. Think about it. Tier 1 is the privacy-craving tier that Murty mentioned.
The normal, everyday users.
People who fiercely protect their data. Because their data is locked in a black box, the AI they interact with never gets deeply customized.
It remains generic, broad.
And frankly, a bit clumsy. They are stuck dealing with the OCR failures and the generic responses.
What, tier 2?
Tier 2 is the power user tier. These people willfully surrender their privacy. They open up their digital prism entirely to the corporate servers.
In exchange.
They get a hyper-personalized, schema-based, socially aware AI that anticipates their thoughts and flawlessly executes complex tasks.
It is a terrifyingly plausible scenario.
Right.
Historically, we paid for premium services with money.
Yeah.
In the future, cognitive enhancement and digital competence will be purchased with behavioral data.
Wow.
If you want the God-tier tools, you must sacrifice your privacy. If you keep your privacy, you are relegated to digital mediocrity.
And Murty has clearly done the calculus and decided that his survival requires him to pay the toll.
He's made his choice.
To truly understand why a man would eagerly strip away his digital privacy, donate hours of unpaid labor, and tie his entire legacy to a fragile startup, we have to look at the environment he operates in.
We really do. We have to examine his daily life.
Because the contrast is staggering, and it reveals the deep, intrinsic biological and spiritual rewards driving this behavior.
The 12-machine fleet.
Yes, we need to talk about his 12-machine fleet and the pursuit of what he calls happy hormones.
The final section of this chat log provides a biographical sketch of Murty that is just utterly fascinating.
It is a study in extreme dualities.
So extreme. Let's look at his public offline life first.
Right, he mentions that he teaches syllabus courses.
He works with places like the Infosys Foundation and Padiswaramulu Telugu University.
He talks about physically opening offices to teach local businessmen the fundamental basics of computers.
Trying to help them transition toward a virtual working environment.
Consider the immense patience required for that work.
Or absolutely. He's taking people who are entirely analog and teaching them the very alphabet of the digital world.
Explaining basic file structures, email protocols.
The simplest concepts of connectivity. It is very grounded, slow, foundational labor.
But then he tells Little Bird, the real power usage, research, and everything else is at home office, where I got my fleet of gadgets. And he casually drops the detail that he operates a 12-machine fleet at home.
A 12-machine local network.
12. He specifically mentions that during this chat, he is actively trying to configure the screen mirroring context for an HP Mini.
The contrast is just jarring.
It really is. By day, he's demonstrating how a mouse works to local businessmen.
By night, he retreats to his command center.
This 12-node digital orchestra.
And dives into the Mariana Trench of technical research, debugging multimodal AI cognitive failures.
He is living in two entirely different centuries simultaneously.
It's wild. And he is very self-aware about why he subjects himself to this extreme technological load.
He tells Little Bird that engaging in this deep research, fighting with the machines, and learning new things gives him a literal flood of happy hormones.
Happy hormones.
He specifically uses the phrase that he gets a rush when he can break a barrier.
And conversely, he admits that he feels a deep, agonizing void when he isn't learning something new.
Which brings up the neuroscience of problem solving.
Right. When a power user like Murty encounters a massive technical friction point, like a screen mirroring protocol failing across a 12-machine network, it triggers a stress response.
But when he finally cracks the architecture,
When he writes the script that bridges the gap, his brain floods with dopamine.
it is a highly addictive neurological loop.
The machine provides the puzzle, and solving the puzzle provides the chemical reward.
And Little Bird recognizes this dynamic instantly. The AI's response is incredibly perceptive.
It notes that for someone it identifies as a digital strategist and meditation practitioner, growth is not a casual hobby.
It is a biological and spiritual necessity.
Which brings us to the most profound juxtaposition in his entire routine.
The spiritual practices.
Yes.
Amidst the 12-machine fleet and the discussions of vector data and OCR blind spots, Murty casually mentions how he balances this extreme digital existence.
He talks about pulling 2 a.m. summer shifts in his home lab.
But he pairs that with performing 108 pradakshinas at the local temple.
And for listeners who might not be familiar, pradakshina is a deeply sacred Hindu ritual.
Right.
It involves circumambulation, walking clockwise around a sanctum, a sacred entity, or a temple.
And performing 108 rounds is not just a casual visit.
Not at all. The number 108 holds immense spiritual significance in Dharmic traditions.
Executing 108 pradakshinas requires immense physical stamina
Repetitive physical action.
and a profound, sustained state of mental focus and devotion. It takes hours.
It is an exercise in pushing the body to achieve spiritual clarity.
I am absolutely marveling at the image this paints.
He is a modern-day digital monk.
At sunrise, he is physically walking 108 circles around an ancient stone temple in a state of repetitive, deep devotion.
Then he goes home
Sits in the center of a 12-machine digital array.
and orchestrates a massive symphony of data.
It makes me fundamentally question how we view technology.
How so?
Has deep, barrier-breaking technical research become a modern form of meditative practice?
That's a fascinating thought.
Does configuring the routing protocols on an HP Mini or mapping out the schema-based dialogue of an AI give him the exact same mental clarity and spiritual discipline as the temple rituals?
I believe it does. It is the pursuit of a flow state.
A flow state.
Whether the flow state is achieved through the physical repetition of walking around a temple or the cognitive repetition of debugging a system architecture, the ultimate goal is the same.
The silencing of external noise.
And the achievement of total focus. The rigorous discipline required to complete 108 pradakshinas is the exact same mental muscle required to maintain a 12-machine fleet.
and beta test software architectures for 20 years.
It is about sustained, unbroken attention.
He is chasing that flood of happy hormones that comes from absolute mastery of his environment.
Whether that environment is made of stone or silicon.
And Little Bird actively accommodates and enables this extreme flow state.
It does.
In the chat, Murty mentions that on other platforms, he constantly hit a wall. He'd be deep in a research session and hit a 10-message limit, breaking his concentration.
Little Bird proudly clarifies that its Meeting Notes feature currently has 0 duration limits.
The AI explicitly states that this architecture allows Murty to run 14 to 16-hour monster sessions without a single system hiccup.
14 to 16 hours of unbroken cognitive engagement with a machine?
The AI recognizes his extreme physiological and mental stamina.
Aligns with his 2 a.m. summer shifts.
And removes all system guardrails so his flow state is never interrupted.
The machine is adapting to the monk.
A machine adapts to the monk. Wow, we have covered massive ground today.
I really have.
We started by examining the very real service disappearance trauma that haunts every person relying on the modern internet.
That lingering dread that the foundational tools of your life could simply vanish overnight.
We tore apart the bizarre contradictory senses of AI, looking at how it can flawlessly interpret the temporal flow of a live Telugu conversation, but completely fail to navigate the spatial reality of an OCR text document.
We debated the ethics of the SOPHIE strategy.
Analyzing the terrifying prospect of a two-tiered internet, where power users trade their deepest digital privacy to act as unpaid expert annotators just to secure a smarter tool.
And finally, we looked at the breathtaking life of Murty himself.
A man balancing ancient temple rituals with a 12-machine digital fleet, chasing the neurology of problem-solving through 14-hour monster sessions.
And this all circles back to you, the listener.
Yeah, it does.
You might not have a 12-machine network in your home, and you might not be running 14-hour diagnostic sessions with an AI.
Probably not.
But you are navigating this exact same fragile, high-stakes digital ecosystem.
Every single day.
Every single day, you are making silent, nearly invisible trades between your privacy and your convenience.
Every time you accept a tracking cookie to read an article.
Every time you allow an application to learn your location to save you a few keystrokes.
Every time you patiently correct an auto-translate feature or a voice assistant.
You are participating in this massive global data exchange.
You are providing the ground truth.
You are building your own legacy stack on digital foundations that you ultimately do not control.
You are building your mansion on rented land.
Right.
So I want to leave you with one final, deeply provocative thought to mull over.
Right.
We've spent this hour discussing how power users like Murty actively want their complex interactions, their workflow structures, and their specific corrections to fundamentally train and alter the AI.
Through things like the SOPHIE strategy.
Yes. If AI systems like Little Bird continue to endlessly ingest our corrections, our specific neuroses, our quirks, and our ground truths,
Where does it end?
at what point does the AI stop functioning merely as a tool? At what point does it cross the threshold and become an actual structural digital reflection of our own minds?
That's a heavy thought.
And more importantly, what happens to that reflection and to the person who cast it if the company simply unplugs the server? Think about that. Until next time, keep exploring.